Hello, hello. We are the Transpositions. Good evening. It's Thursday night, 0 hour for the team. We don't have an Ember tonight, but we do have a Ben. So Ben is here because he
I
knows
was
what he's
picked up
talking
off the
about.
street. I was
We
picked up
got the
off the street.
pens.
They
We
felt
got the
bad for
pens.
me.
We got the
Yeah.
penis over here. We got the
They
penis
felt
right
they
up
felt
here.
bad.
Yeah.
They found me on the
There we
side of the
go.
road and were like, this
Holy
fella needs a
shit.
home. So I guess you can be the
Where?
weatherman, and that is why I'm here
Yeah.
tonight.
He ran over an armadillo
We don't have armadillos in this part of
and got the
Texas.
leprosy.
You gotta
Did
be
do
in
that.
East Texas. You gotta be in East
Uh,
Texas to get an armadillo. It's too dry here.
Hey, look at who we got in the chat. We got Ember. Ember, you slacker. What are you doing, man? Jeez, some
She
crow.
did.
We got
She
Ember.
did put us together like a 21-minute video before she tapped out their stuff.
This is true.
And
This is
she
true.
gave us our breaking story, which we'll get to after Ben says his piece. We do have breaking stuff from fucking Texas, because of course it is. But
Of
I'm gonna
course,
let you guys do the military talk thing first, because that's something huge and important that's happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
Military talk. I thought I was talking about the weather tonight.
You got to start with the weather.
I'll start
That's
with the
why
weather.
You're first.
Okay.
Go with
Yes,
the weather.
Yeah, let's get that forecast squeezed in, and then Ben can enjoy some Jack in the Box.
What's the weather like at the Blue Moon Whorehouse?
Yeah.
That's what I like to know.
Yeah. So, for everybody
Yes, there
wondering
we
what
go.
the
Let's
weather
go.
forecast is in El Paso, Texas, as of 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time, because that is the forecast I have pulled up right now. Currently, on this day of the 27th of February, 2025, currently there's a clear sky, a low of 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are 10 to 20 miles per hour. There's a 24% chance of humidity. Later on this week, we're looking at the 70s for the highs, up to 78 on Saturday with lows in the high 40s. But I do need to mention a 100% chance of transphobic bullshit coming down from the government. And that is why we're here today.
You know what? Why is it that the weather in Texas, it starts in Austin, which is kind of centrally located, and it just spreads out all over the place? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
Understand. There you go.
Ben is
Anyway,
loud.
speaking of the military, soldier.
Yeah, so that's
boy.
why I'm here.
Oh, my
There's a
little
big piece of
boy.
news that dropped last night, and it's something that we had anticipated ever since the election. We knew it was going to be interesting, and by interesting, I mean not so great. And they delivered. They absolutely delivered on this. So for context, for people that haven't been following the past several years, the things that are happening have been attempted before, not to the same degree. Now they are very explicit and very direct in their words, and very opposing of any loopholes this time around. Last time, there were legal battles that trapped the issue for like 2 years or something, and nobody, like, people weren't able to get into the military, but nobody really got kicked out. So where this is escalated now is that there was this pretty much blanket ban filed last night. And the reason why it was filed at this time is because there's there's one kind of big lawsuit, but then several other smaller lawsuits kind of in progress. And in order for that lawsuit to kind of keep progressing, they had to file all of the documents, including the anticipated ban. So they filed that paperwork, and it is blatantly discriminatory. So it is not at all an argument for medical readiness. It's not an argument of physical readiness. That is not an argument that they make. It is just a blanket. If you are trans, if you have ever attempted to be trans, you are targeted by this ban. And it is on the one hand, very, very infuriating because we have estimated 15,000 trans troops across the branches of the military, and the majority of them are senior NCOs, so like the backbone of the military, and officers. So people in higher ranking positions who have decades of experience, and getting rid of those people, it would cost them so much more money. I think like Trump was trying to say there was like $15 million or something on the line
Oh
for,
no,
but it's like, no, like, so that's, you're
it's going to
losing.
be in the billions. It's
Yeah,
gonna
no,
be in
and
the
that's what
billions of
he
dollars.
was saying. He was saying like 15 million, like for a cost for healthcare for trans people, but that cost is actually lower than he estimated it. I think it's somewhere around like 5 million is where they estimated it, but the cost to lose all of those military members is around 18 billion or something. It's
Yeah, it's around 18
astronomical.
billion. Yeah, it's around 18 billion because these guys are so stupid. They don't understand that there's already investments, right?
Yep.
In the personnel,
Yep.
in the equipment, in the training, all of the stuff. You're going to it's not like these people are going to be instantly replaced with the same level of
Yeah, it takes
readiness,
about 20
preparation,
years to
etc.
reproduce a lot of the people that we're losing by this. And I think about, you know, the
So
things that the administration has said about, you know, they want to have World War III or whatever. They want to do all these things, but with what force? You're getting rid of your people. Like,
so
and something I was mentioning too, the fact that you have people, especially junior enlisted, not all of them, but a high percentage of them want to get out. They don't want to be in the military, and a lot of people will fake injuries and try to get med boarded, and that's like a long review process. But like, it's funny because
anybody
when
remember
people say,
Corporal Klinger? Huh?
"Oh yeah,
Anybody
well,
old
like,
enough to remember Corporal Klinger? Hey,
well,
well,
like
there we
when
go.
people say, but like when people say that people are just gonna pretend to be trans to like go use the bathroom, like, no, that's not it. Like, no one cares what bathroom you use. Like, that's not enforced. But what people will do is pretend to be trans to get allowed to leave the military.
Right.
Like, if you get a free
Well,
pass to get out.
like Klinger. And let me just show let me just show this uh, article among the people. Okay, these are the people that are getting these are the people in the lawsuit that was filed on the 29th of January. Army Captain Gordon Herrera, one of the 6 active duty plaintiffs, said in a statement accompanying the lawsuit, "There's nothing about being transgender that makes me better or worse than any other soldier I serve alongside. We are all here because we are committed to our country and we are passionate, willing, and able to serve effectively." The 6 plaintiffs include a Sailor of the Year honoree, a Bronze Star recipient, and several who were awarded meritorious service medals. These are people. People forget trans people are people. They're ordinary people doing ordinary jobs and doing extraordinarily well at those jobs in many, many cases. Sure,
And
there are some trans people that are not doing all that hot. There are some people that are excelling and have been able to excel.
yeah, and here's the bottom line for all of that. Like, you are disqualifying people who meet the standards of their gender marker. Like, if you are transitioning and you have changed your gender marker, you are required to meet all of the standards of your gender marker. And the people who don't meet those standards are already on their way out. So this isn't filtering out people who aren't medically or physically ready. You're kicking out the people who have met the requirements, who continue to meet the requirements. And you're just losing your most committed people. So to even pretend that this is about readiness, none of the language in the policy refers to readiness. It is just blanket discrimination. Because how does it affect medical readiness if you have attempted to change your gender marker? Or if you have a history of gender dysphoria but don't currently have it in your record? Like, how does anything like that impact your medical readiness? It
Now,
doesn't.
is this going to affect detransitioners too? The people that they're always so worried about when they're
Yes, it will kick out
detransitioners
detransitioners because they have a history of gender dysphoria, and the only people like there's the talk about the waiver, which is really not a waiver, because the only people who would qualify for that are people who are in the closet, have not come out as trans, have not attempted to transition, and have like not made any mention of transitioning. Those are the people that would qualify for the waiver. So people that aren't going to be picked up anyway by this.
Yeah. Well, it's basically, I think Evan Urquhart in a post earlier, it said, I think correct me if I'm wrong, this is off the top of my head, and I could be wrong in recalling this. You have to have been comfortable with your sex assigned at birth and never attempted to transition or received any transition care, etc. In other words, if you're not trans, you can be in the military.
Yeah, at least if you're not openly trans. If you're closeted and have never made an attempt to transition, then you're the one exception that can stay in.
Ridiculous.
So it's don't ask, don't tell 2.0.
It's don't. Well, I think it's worse than don't ask, don't tell.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely worse.
Think it's it's like, suppose under don't ask, don't tell, you could be passing.
It's more like we're gonna ask, but you better not tell.
Yeah. We're gonna investigate your medical records, but you better not tell us.
But there better not be anything in your deep, dark, sordid past.
Don't even tell your doctor about it.
You better not tell your doctor. You better not tell your chaplain. You better not tell anybody.
There are a bunch of links, by the way, that we put in the description of stories on this issue. We weren't anticipating actually having Ben on the show tonight. We're ever so grateful that you're here and are willing to speak out openly about it. But there are several articles linked to in the description talking about this stuff, both from the 29th of July of January, when the policy was first announced and the lawsuits were filed and all of this. There's a wonderful article. If you haven't read it yet, by all means, read it. A great journalist by the name of Melissa Gira Grant. I don't know if it's GIRA. I'm not sure how the G's, whether it's a hard G, a soft G, or an HG. Published on the 29th of January in the New Republic. And the subhead of this article says it all. The rhetoric in the president's executive order claims that trans identity is a form of dishonesty.
Yep.
And moral weakness. It's setting the stage for further legal assaults, and that's what we're facing here.
Yep.
It's the easiest place that this, say the word, ideology is focused on. And it transcends. Where did integration first take place in the United States of America? It was in the U.S. military. And it can operate in the reverse. If we start reinstituting bigotry in the United States military, then we can impose it upon the rest of the nation.
You already impose it on most of the world. Let's be real.
Yeah, this is a.
That was my editorial comment, by the way. How's the weather?
Yeah, I mean, we want to
Wow.
the weather.
Not only are we not good enough to bomb Pyongyang, we can't piss in Peoria. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
this is coming down to. Why should
But
don't you know something? Stephanie, I understand where you're coming from. As much as I have my qualms with American foreign policy, and have for most of my life, the fact of the matter is this is a bad symbol. When the military, when you allow this level of discrimination in the public sector, it's gonna seep into the private sector. And look at what happened in today in Texas and Iowa.
Well, we got that.
We're starting
coming.
to see
Yeah.
a nation roughly from Key West, Florida, west to Arizona, and then the north from Ohio to Montana, Ohio to Idaho. It's no trans land.
Well,
The United States
we've
is
got
now no, and now to top it off, the United States is becoming quickly a pariah nation in the world. That is what we're seeing here. I mean, and the real sad thing is, and why do I get the feeling that the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028 are going to feel a lot like Berlin 1936?
because. So of the four of us in the room right now, there's one of us who swore an oath. Ben, what is that oath? Do
Yeah.
you know that oath?
It
Can
is
you-
to
can
the
you-
Constitution of the United States. So not to an individual, not to an individual policy, it is to the Constitution that supposedly grants all of us the same rights. But we're seeing that
we didn't
chipped
have
away.
a king back then, though. We have a king now,
Yeah.
so things have.
You swore an oath. Correct me if I'm wrong. You swore an oath to defend that Constitution.
Yep.
Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yep.
How many
Against
of your
all.
fellow service members wholeheartedly embrace that oath?
My unit might be an exception. I have a very supportive unit and community, where a lot of people have taken the policies as an invitation to be hateful. My unit has not, where the policies say, hey, you are required to misgender people. My unit has not done that. My unit has provided support, and they are trying to hold on to me as long as they can. But that's an exception. I see stories every day of people whose command teams take every excuse to misgender them and to continually harass them. And so, yeah, my experience is an exception, but there are a lot of people that I would say are not wholeheartedly committed to that oath they took.
And yeah, I just wanted to bring this up because we've covered this book last couple of weeks, but just wanted to pull this up again. You know, if you hadn't seen it, this is stories of servicemen and women that are trans, just doing their best to serve their country like any other American soldier. And these are their stories. If you're interested in hearing about the representation and what people have done for our country while being trans, and why this is nothing but a detriment to the future of our military, check this book out, or check these books out, because there's two here.
Yeah, I think the first one is from the first trans ban, and then the second one is from the recent ban.
You know, so I mean, we've been plugging that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention here at the TransPositions, Ben. He's been spreading that kind of around the neighborhood, making sure everybody's aware of the availability. I'm going to drop a link for everybody in the side chat. All right.
Yeah, that'd be great. So it's really we were sort of clowning a little bit before coming on air, talking about um, a recipe for disaster, if you will, and we got into it a little bit on stream, talking about how readiness, the loss of these people, the loss of the investment in those people is a loss of readiness in military force. That can't be a positive contribution to the status of the United States as a military power. How does it work when we deprive ourselves or make it more expensive for ourselves to acquire the raw materials that are necessary to build the equipment that a military needs to operate?
Right. That's something that the administration has not considered. Like, they are very poor problem solvers, very poor at logic and a lot of different types of thinking. They don't think about what goes into like a military force. They do not understand, because if they did, they would see what a terrible move this is.
Well, they just bought like 400,000 or $400 million worth of cyber trucks. So
Yeah,
even
because that's going to do better than the equipment we are, like the resources to build the equipment that we're getting from our allied nations, or I guess like more previously allied nations.
yeah.
But like, you burn those bridges, like people don't take into account like where our metal comes from, like where our other resources come from. And if you alienate everybody else, have fun fighting that on your own. Like, you can't do that.
I gotta think that a force of Cybertrucks at the Battle of the Bulge would have meant a tremendous victory for the Axis powers.
Cybertrucks can't
Like
even go
breaking
for
right
sure.
through the Ardennes and all
They
the way
can't even
back to
off-road.
Paris, you know?
They can't even off-road like on a curb.
And they have like a low carrying capacity, like lower than like a old Toyota. As much as about as much as a shopping cart. So is that generally about as much as what one soldier can carry on their back is probably what fits in the back of a Cybertruck. So
Yeah, like people that don't understand like the purpose of a military vehicle or any kind of functional vehicle isn't to look a certain way. The look is not the function. Like, there's a reason why military vehicles are ugly as fuck, because they need to work.
Pile
They
them
need
in.
to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LSTs are not they're not the prettiest things in the world, but you know what? They get the troops ashore. You know?
They get the work done. Yeah, and that's what you need. And this administration does not have the right priorities to get things done that need to get done, and it's worrying.
yeah.
Look, I want to tell just you might ask me why I'm smiling and laughing and joking around a little bit. It's because this is what we do. There was a great thread in Blue Sky, bunch of skeets in Blue Sky that were just absolutely great. Posted the beginning of the thread was a black woman posted, "Listen, all you pale folk need to consider your snide remarks and black folks' posts here in these times. Because y'all seem so damn desperate. Guess what? We've been desperate a whole fucking long time. Like since 1619. And it is critical to hold on to living your life, moving on, getting day to day, seeing the injustice, seeing the trouble, dealing with the trouble, but keeping on. Survival is the most important thing in times like these. And survival means coming together. So I smile while I weep, because it's
That's all
the
we can
only
do.
way. It's the only way to get through times like these. And I have been through times like these.
I want to say thank you so much, Ben, for coming on tonight. I know all this is unfolding before our eyes, and having some, and you've been, on the fence about what you wanted to say about certain things. So I'm really glad that you got your
Super
direction
grateful.
together, and you decided to share it here on the Transpositions with us tonight. I know you do have to bounce.
Yeah, I got to
but
eat this food that's sitting in front of me.
yeah, but
And I don't want
did you
to
have
delay other segments, but
did you have any final words? On
no,
that
not really.
situation?
Yeah, we got to vent. But thanks for having me on. Have a good rest of your show.
Yeah, appreciate you, Ben.
Thanks so much, Ben.
You take care.
Thanks, Dr. Ben.
All right, so continuing on, I had me rolling. We need more of this malicious compliance stuff. I wanted to show you guys this. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but here we go.
Yeah.
Next up is Britt.
Hello. Thank you, Madam Chairman. As the Senate overwhelmingly voted yes on
You can
SF,
call me Mr. Chairman if you want.
well, I cannot be compelled to use your preferred pronouns as you have all
Wait
voted.
a minute. We're talking about preferred pronouns. A lot of people are. I prefer to be called Chairman French. That's my preferred pronoun.
I know, and you all voted that preferred pronouns cannot be compelled speech in SF 77. Anyway, my name is Britt Borrell, and I'm a constituent calling in from Casper to voice my opposition to HB 32.
Your time's almost up. Go ahead.
As Ms. Burlingame noted here today, this bill not only flies in the face of biological fact because intersex and two-spirit people have always existed, but it puts women in real danger through government overreach. The only logical enforcement mechanism for bills like this involves gross invasions of privacy. If women do not present as female enough, could they be required to undergo a genital inspection just to use the bathroom or the gym locker room? Would they be required to submit some kind of medical proof of genitals to the government? The bills introduced this session attacking transgender people and children are couched in insincere language about protecting women. However, what they are really doing is targeting a demographic that makes up 1% of the population. I'm tracking more than a dozen bills that this body has heard stripping rights and healthcare access away from women and trans people, rather than focusing on issues that actually matter to Wyoming citizens. This legislative session has been filled with bills more concerned with engaging in culture wars than tackling the difficult work you were all sent here to do, to govern effectively for all of the people of Wyoming. So I ask you to please stop this hateful rampage to put women and trans people in deliberate physical danger. Please vote no on this bill, and please, for the love of our great state, do your jobs.
Thank you for your testimony. We are doing our job. We work hard at it every, starts with a D, every D day.
This is how to get in shape fast.
All right. No ads. That's what's going on. That's what we call malicious compliance to their standard. If you can't compel anybody to address you by specific pronouns. Welcome to a world where you can call anybody anything that you want, and they have no leg to stand on. That's what's spreading throughout the system. But they don't seem to grasp it until it's dangling right in their face. He still didn't quite seem to understand what was going on there. still didn't quite seem to understand that he was complying with his position, and he wanted his preferred. Well, he thought his preferred pronoun was chairman, but it's an honorific, not a not a pronoun. But I digress.
Well, it could be considered a gender.
Gender.
Well, it could be a chairwoman. Could be. I mean, or Mr. Horseman would be okay too, because a horse is, of course, a
chair.
conveyance with four legs and a place to sit.
So this is the woman we just saw, Wyoming resident Britt Burrell. Yeah, I guess she has a little bit of internet presence. I'd never heard of her before or anything, but she put this, and this is the gentleman that she just trounced.
Is that Buffalo Bill? The guy looks like Buffalo Bill. He's a ginger anyway. He's probably really a sourpuss.
So he voted for a bill that says that state and its political subdivisions shall not compel or require employees to refer to another employee using the employee's preferred pronouns. And he thought that just applied to trans people, I guess. I mean, that's in the underlining of this.
So you don't mind if I call you hose beast then, or douche canoe,
Yeah, I think she did. She must have done it.
or
must have
twat
done an
waffle.
interview after this.
Oh my goodness, these people are so bad.
Yeah, just like the look on his face right here. It's like, we're talking about preferred pronouns. A lot of people are. I prefer to be called Chairman French. But my dude, you said that you can't compel us to call you that or anything. We can call you whatever we want.
Well, how about if I call him Chairman German instead of French?
So to put it in a perspective, though, you gotta keep in mind that this gentleman just voted on not being able to call people, or not being compelled to call people by preferred pronouns, when he clearly doesn't demonstrates he doesn't know what pronouns are. So I mean, wrap your head around that, because he's like, I prefer to be, or my preferred pronouns or whatever, or I prefer to be called Chairman French. Those aren't pronouns, my dude. That's your honorific in your surname.
I think he'd actually be more happy with the title of Gauleiter. Just saying.
Yeah, we know you did it deliberately. She went on. I guess that's what she did. She went on Instagram about it and clarified what she was doing. But yeah, it does. It's like a policing people. You don't look female enough. You don't look like you belong in this demographic or that demographic. So we're gonna question your identity and question who you really are. What a gross development of things. But speaking of gross developments, one of the gross developments of our time is the Catholic Church. And they've decided to give this sociologist a platform to teach us about the problem with transgenderism. Because, of course, transgenderism is how the Catholic Church is going to
it's amazing how they just want to demonize us at will, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they quote a lot of scriptures here, but
just demonize trans people. Go on ahead.
Well, it is Catholicism.
Catholicism. Catechism. We are facing a crisis in human sexuality caused by a representation of human anthropology that cancels out differences between men and women, portraying sex differences as simply the product of historical or
God, I
cultural
just need to
conditioning
just
that
shoot me.
this approach proposes. No, it doesn't. You dumb fuck. This is a quote from Pope Francis. A person.
He's
a person-
Frankie's not in a good. He ain't going to Hollywood anytime soon. Let me tell you that right now. He's kind of he's in a bad way.
A personal identity and emotional intimacy radically separated from the biological difference between male and female. So you're like doing sleight of hand there. You switch out men and women and male and female. They do that all the time. People they want to make sure that they want to make sure they use it as interchangeably as much as possible to normalize that, right? While we're over here trying to decouple those terms, right? And say, hey, these are two independent concepts. The Catholic Church and probably the Heritage Foundation too, and the current administration in the U.S. all trying to consolidate and make sex and gender mean the same thing, which is has always been problematic, and you can't actually create two categories. It's not possible. You can't create a binary. Let's see. Gender identity theory. Do you all know about gender identity theory? Our body has an inbuilt order or grammar that sets forth the end criteria of the wise. That was Pope Benedict. That's who you want to listen to. Gender identity theory denies the difference in reciprocity in the nature of a man and woman, and envisage a society without sexual differences, with consequences that human identity becomes the choice of the individual, one which can change over time. It can change over time as you start to understand who you are a bit. It's going to change over time. A lot of stuff about your identity changes over time. You started off as a baby, and even when you got done being a baby, you were like a child that liked to play with dolls and stuff. I mean, not saying you're still a child if you like to play with dolls now, but your interests have changed. Your personality has changed. The things that make you happy, the things that make you sad have changed. You are a different person. We all go through those changes.
Your identity can change over time. You can start out as Hitler Youth and then become Pope.
Oh. The consequences of transgenderism, friends. The consequences. I'll tell you what, for me, the consequences were suicide prevention. I mean, I'm not trying to drag things down, but when you have gender dysphoria, you can suffer with some pretty debilitating effects. Let's see. Once the human being declares independence from reality and behaves with absolute dominion, the very foundation of our lives begins to crumble. Okay. Such a situation makes it increasingly difficult to grasp clearly the meaning of what man is, the meaning of his rights and his duties. I think this quote seems like it's more about the man as a species, like mankind, but go off, sis.
The consequences of transgenderism. God almighty.
What are the consequences of transgenderism? We watch more anime.
You might be a happy person. Oh my goodness.
Listen here.
A blahage in every room. I'm all for that.
Really? Seriously? What the
TransPositions
fuck?
crew, and I know Ember's still listening at home in her nest. Why is gender identity such an unacceptable view?
Hey, Melatonin Ale. Love to see you. It's great to see you here. Thanks so much for coming.
It is from their sex that the human person receives their characteristics which on the biological, psychological, and spiritual level makes that person a man or a woman. So it's dualism. Basically, it's refuge in dualism to say, yes, you have a sexed spirit, which means that that you can't ever change it because God put it in you that way. The souls only come in pink or blue. You were given a
Hey,
pink
Bree,
or a blue one.
turn up the gain on your mic a little bit.
On my end, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know. Is that better?
Yeah,
Woohoo.
I think so. Woohoo.
Is the audience saying I'm low?
The audience is saying you're low.
Get low. I'll bring myself up. Don't you worry.
You get yourself in there, girl.
We're gonna get it sorted out. Oh my goodness. What am I doing?
You're good. I think you're good there. I don't know. Tell us, chat. Is Bree sounding good right now?
I could probably better right about there, I'd say.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That's
right.
Right there.
It's switched. Well, we talked about that before the show. We're not going to do housekeeping right now, but yeah, that should be better. In fact, the body reveals the living soul, so that if we dealt with sex without the person, the whole adequacy of the anthropology which we find in Genesis would be destroyed. That's Pope John Paul II, but anthropology found in Genesis. Are the Catholics like Old Testament literalists? Do they believe that Adam and Eve and all that stuff's literal? I thought they accepted evolution now.
They do doctrinally. Yes, they do.
Okay. There is a deep connection between the mystery of creation as a gift springing from love and that beatifying beginning of beatifying beginning of the existence of man as male and female and the whole truth of their body and their sex. That's Pope John Paul II too. He was really John Paul. Was he which pope was it that first started like allowing gay people to receive?
He was a Polish guy. He let the the homosexuals in.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah. It was the acceptance of our bodies as God's gift is vital for welcoming and accepting the entire world as a gift from the Father in our common home. Then does that mean that you have to accept like these people, like this dude here, for instance, he's wearing glasses. He's not accepting his body as it is. He's using artificial medical intervention to make sure that he can see, that he can continue to see with his eyes. He should be, able to appreciate the body as God gave it to him, and God gave him those eyes to last as long as they did. Yeah. And I'm just other things like that. People use medical intervention to make their quality of life better across the spectrum, but it only seems to be a big problem for the Catholics. Well, I should say it always seems to be a big problem for the Catholics, but they pick and choose. They cherry pick, because I've seen plenty of people in the church that wear glasses or hearing aids, walk with a cane, use a wheelchair, all those things that just aren't accepting your body as it is and using intervention, probably taking all sorts of medication. The gift of man and woman. Creation is prior to us and must receive it as a gift. What are the gift of man and woman? Being a man or being man or being woman is a reality which is good and willed by God. Man and woman possess inalienable dignity, which comes to them immediately from God, their creator. So God made me a woman. If you believe in your God made me a woman. Trust me, I'm a woman. Right? So you need to come to terms with that, not me. I know who I am. It's the one thing to be. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Steph.
I think we two atheists need to allow our theists to expound on the nature of God vis-a-vis gender. I think it would be an interesting interlude. So,
Well,
Carly, what do you think?
before we give Carly the floor, I just want to say, I just want to point out to you guys, notice that this is a lot of quotes from a lot of popes and not a lot of doctrines from a lot of Bibles. So this isn't biblical.
Well, there's that too.
I mean, Carly might be having some issues.
Maybe.
What about those suffering who suffer gender dysphoria, though? It's time to talk about conversion therapy. Is the Pope going to talk about conversion therapy?
I don't know.
As a fairly new recognized condition for boys, men, and girls and women who suffer gender dysphoria and or brand new, this newfangled gender dysphoria and or identify as transgender or non-binary. The search for cures, solutions, treatments must be guided by models promoting the authentic good of the human person. Medical and pastoral support, as Pope Francis teaches, needs to help people to accept their own bodies and avoid the pretensions to cancel out sexual difference because one no longer knows how to deal with it. So conversion therapy is what that's talking about. Conversion therapy.
Yeah, well, maybe.
That's Pope Francis as well. To fulfill this duty, all who collaborate in Catholic healthcare ministry must make every effort using all appropriate means at their disposal to provide the best medical care.
Personally, I think all these people need, when you guys start dealing with your bad touching little boys habit, then you can start talking.
Then you can,
Yeah.
You know, you can construct a doctrine. This is the problem with the whole. To me, this is a problem with biblical exegesis and all of this kind of nonsense. Drives me up the wall. You could construct a papal homily based on Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch from the book Acts, where you know, we are literally talking about a surgical intervention. Oh my God, a surgical intervention. Oh, how did that happen? But yeah. God called upon the Apostle Philip to welcome the Ethiopian eunuch into the fold, which is like, hey, yeah, we need to have a bigger church. You don't care if you got no balls. You can come into the church and it'll be fine. You know, just give us a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Go down to Ethiopia, take care of all the things, and you'll be fine. It's just silly. All of these things. I don't care what you believe. I care what you do with your belief. If your belief calls upon you to be charitable, be kind, to be accepting, to be loving, to be compassionate, to show empathy to other people, great. I'll leave the fuck alone, because you won't leave me the fuck alone. You want to worship Yahweh, you want to worship Baal, you want to worship Ganesh. I don't care. You want to worship nobody. I don't care. If we can see that we are all siblings, you don't need to be a sibling in the sight of God. You can be a sibling and care. That's enough. And if your faith says that level of care grants you special privileges after this life is over, and you believe that there is something after this life is over, then it's win-win. It's like the reverse of Pascal's wager. You don't have, if the price of admission is belief, that's a really high price to pay for me. The true price is the price you pay right here, and the price you owe right here to the people who need you as a sibling, as a caring person. That's my little sermonette.
So here's where this gets really problematic, is what can I do? Because this is completely encouraging people to, just misgender and do conversion therapy on their children. Anyone who is Christian has a duty to bear witness to the gospel. We must speak out against transgenderism. At the same time, we are called to protect our humanity, and this means, in the first place, accepting it and respecting it as it was created. We must have,
folks, but that's Christian. This is Christian doctrine spoken from a Christian perspective. I am willing to embrace Christians who do not hew to that doctrine. However, you can't deny that when it's coming from the Pope, it ain't Christian.
Has some agenda tied in with it. Anyway, that's about as much attention as I want to give the Catholic Church today, but I thought I would share that with you guys. See what you think of these different Pope quotes, because again, there's no scripture to say to be cruel to us. They gotta go extra biblical to justify marginalizing trans and gender nonconforming people. Anyhow, we do got some good news coming up, though.
We do. But hey, I got to say hello to the people who've joined chats. I see Jay, Hunter Biden's laptops in here. I see Coffee Breath. I've never seen you in here before. Maybe I don't know. Hallie, hi, welcome. Listen, all y'all, anybody who's new here, please do like the channel and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment for us. It really helps. We're really trying to bring it week after week after week. Ember with the good news, and Carly with the sports, and me with me and my horseshit, and Bree with her incredible talent for bringing it all together. We love having you here. So.
Love being here. I don't know where else I would rather spend my Thursday nights than with you, lovely ladies, and going over the world falling apart around us. But I get to see all your faces while we do it, so I know I'm not going through it alone. Yeah. Are you?
Just snowflakes is all it is. Snowflakes.
Are you coming?
Pretty mad out there.
Are you coming back with the? Are you coming back with after sports with the thing about the Maine governor and Trump having a row? Or
that's in sports tonight.
It's in sports tonight. Excellent. Okay.
This is what's going to happen in sports tonight. We are going to first. Nikki went to the Hilts again. Nikki did their thing again at National Indoors this past weekend. They were incredible, did something great. We're going to have the highlights. We're also going to look at how transgender athletes and transgender people who don't live in the United States will not be allowed into the United States. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to look at Maine versus Trump, and we're gonna and the little thing that's on the periphery, but very important to look at. We're going to look at how one particular station and broadcast group is covering this. They do transphobia with Flair, and their name is Sinclair. Want to know more? Stick around for sports.
Excellent.
And while we're at it, while we're on the subject here, my what I had in my what I had in pocket from, and I'm glad to hear Carly and I seem to have been of one mind. Of course, I live in the great state of Maine, and today's Portland Press Herald actually had a story on this, and I'd like to touch on that in my little segment. I'll try to edit my stuff, but I had my stories were. We've already covered this one, obviously, with the expert, Dr. Ben. Souse SecDef seeks to sack soldiers. That's the, get rid of. My lead story was going to be, and it sounds like Carly's going to touch on this, was going to be Mills, Mauls, Mango, Mussilini. That was my headline for Janet Mills, my governor. Dirigo means I lead. And I actually have an editorial from the Boston Herald, a very right-wing newspaper, who actually said Janet Mills may be the next leader of the Democratic Party. Gives her the credit for standing up for that to that asshole. And again, I have today's headlines in the Portland Press Herald, so I'll touch on that a little bit. I think I'll just touch on the today's headlines in the Press Herald and leave you to the other story. I also had in pocket what I have. I had this story from Ms. Magazine. This is actually a fascinating story, which I think I'll just limit it to Janet, and because I think, Carly, you've got the other things coming. Prudes, Prune, Pink Pride, which is age verification laws seek to erase LGBT.
Are we ready for good news? I don't know what happened there. Everybody got bumped.
I don't know. Everybody got bumped, and I was in the middle of my little roundup. And finally, what happened in Texas today? Probably gonna lead with that in my segment. So
I mean, you've
most
got
of the stuff I talked
Texas, Iowa. This is that's ridiculous.
Very, very bad.
And just to note, a memo to International Pride Softball. You are planning to have the Gay Softball World Series in Houston, Texas. Given what Texas's legislature and their governor are planning to do, as a person who has played in your league, I really think you need to rethink that seriously. And I'd also like to send the word out to Formula One. You have a Grand Prix in Texas. Maybe you don't need to have the Grand Prix in Texas. They're talking about Super Bowl 62 or 63 being at Jerry World in Dallas. Roger Goodell, I don't think you should put it there. Texas has criminalized transgender people the same way that Iowa today has voted to do it. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Have they no decency?
The answer is no.
All right, friends, let's get that good news in. Come on.
Let's do it.
We've got some sports coming later. Steph's coming back with some narratives for us. But for now, we're gonna pop right over to Ember with some good news.
This song is about being trans.
My grandma grew up in the 30s. She's a Catholic through and through. I would have understood if she had been abrasive and confused. She could have turned away and simply washed her hands of it. Instead, she's bragging to her friends how great her grandson is. It makes me wonder, would it all change if we just sat down to speak? I'm not fed up with you for fearing something that you've never seen. When people painted you a picture of who I am supposedly, it's not surprising that you're trying to not get too close to me. All your violence, all your venom won't come close to getting rid of me. And at the pearly gates, all those statements you made will suddenly be things you didn't really mean. I find it strange to hold such hatred for a stranger. You find it strange when I hold kindness to your anger. I find it strange this shape you mold me into. You'll find it strange when I forget you.
Good news, everyone! Tonight, stories of the people, by the people, and for the people. In that order. Good news starts right now. First, a YouTuber raises over $500,000 for Trans Lifeline. From them. If ever there was any doubt that Magic the Gathering is trans culture, this should settle the matter for good. Polarian Community College, YouTube's largest Magic channel, has officially raised over $575,000 for Trans Lifeline. ECC, named for the in-game university Tolarian Academy's more affordable alternative, is the first Magic-focused YouTube channel to cross 1 million subscribers. It's operated by creator Brian Lewis, better known to viewers as The Professor. Lewis has run annual fundraisers for Trans Lifeline, a mental health crisis hotline, since 2020. And this year's drive is the channel's most successful yet, raising over $472,000 in just 36 hours, and adding over 100K more as of time of recording. In an email, Lewis explained that he never expected to raise more than a few $1,000s with his first donation drive in 2020, but ended up with over 120,000 when it was over. Quote, "After that, I knew I had to do it every year," he said. Since then, the campaigns have collectively raised over $1 million for Trans Lifeline, and that's not including the $500,000 plus from this year. Quote, "It's overwhelming to see the community support. It makes me so proud of Magic the Gathering players to see them rallying behind the trans community like this. The current political climate," he went on, "has underscored the need for that support. Quote, right now I see trans people around me, my friends, my family, my coworkers, being told that they don't exist. We need to show trans people that they are not alone. I want them to know that, even though it may not always feel this way, they are loved and that we are so grateful to have them in our lives." The fundraiser also comes at a key moment for Trans Lifeline itself. While its core critical crisis hotline has remained in operation, organization had to downsize and pause its microgrant program in late 2023, citing lack of funds. After this effort, that might change. The fundraising page notes that the drive, Quote, "We'll also provide the means to bring back Trans Lifeline's microgrants program, which helps trans people who are imprisoned, detained, in the immigration process, or who are trying to legally update their identity documents with accurate names and gender markers." Much to the chagrin of anti-woke gamers, Magic has been a staple of queer and trans nerd culture for literal decades. The game itself has expanded over time to incorporate canonically trans characters and stories, such as the game's first explicitly trans character, Alicia, who smiles at death, non-binary planeswalker Nico Eris, and trans cowboy Yuma, among many others. Lead developer Mark Rosewater explained on his personal blog, stories like these look to reflect the actual diversity of the community of people who play Magic. On Lewis's channel, gameplay videos often feature trans and non-binary players from a variety of backgrounds, and TCC has employed several trans writers over the years, including current writer Jesse Robkin and Lewis's former Tolarian tutor, Carmen Klumperens, now a senior game designer at Wizards of the Coast. Quote, "I can't tell you how much it means to all of us at Tolarian Community College to be able to do anything, to do whatever we can to help," Lewis wrote. Doing what we can to help each other is, more than nation or politics or preferences or age or race or fandom, what community is all about. Community also means using what voice you have to call out those working to do harm, especially those who go out of their way to put a child in danger for their own political benefit, like Maine State Representative Laura Libby, who last week published photos of a high school kid she personally did not like, apparently in hopes the MAGA mob would harass and threaten her into hiding because of the kind of person she is. Representative Libby posted a pre-transition photo, dead-named, and pointed would-be assailants at exactly where to find the student, stopping just short of suggesting any particular action. In a time when political radicals are actively killing people for being the wrong sort of human, including kids, this behavior goes beyond inconceivably malicious, but is arguably criminal. I'm not familiar with Maine's laws, but one must expect intentionally endangering the well-being of a child is a serious offense. But this isn't the first time Representative Libby has deliberately put kids in danger. Aside from supporting MAGA plans like defunding public education and restricting access to health and human services, she's also a rabid anti-vaccine advocate and conspiracy theorist. Fortunately, her constituents, even the ones who don't support human rights for all, were quick to call her out for going way over the line. Dylan Madden said attacking kids is weird and bad, which is true, but also something one might expect a grown adult would understand. Zachary Morin said, "God, you're a pathetic embarrassment." Brianna Miller said for a representative to be exploiting a child like this, bullying a child on the internet, is absolutely disgusting. Bella Hendry said, "Regardless of this disgusting obsession you have, you should never, ever talk about a child in this way." Anna Hendry said, "Grown adults posting and hating on a minor. You should all be ashamed." Lauren Shane said, "Hoping your children never get exposed like this on a public platform." Jane Long said, "You're an embarrassment to Maine and humanity as a whole, making fun of a child." David Bergeron said, "Shameful, Ms. Libby." Dear Odell said, "Regardless of your opinion on the topic, you're setting them up for harassment and harm. Trans teens already have enough bullies. They don't need elected officials deciding to plaster their face on an online platform for thousands or more to react to." I. Ryan said, "I hope she sues the hell out of you for this. Way too far, and a terrible standard to set as a public official." Of course, there were hundreds more comments, but possibly the best response of all came from Brooklyn Boyle, who said simply, "Way to go, Katie." That, friends, is community. Elsewhere in the U.S., more state reps out themselves. In Kansas, Governor Laura Kelly vetoed a bill attempting to block vital health care for children for the third time. The GOP, who, between these efforts and doing their level best to maximize school shootings, seem hell-bent on killing as many kids as possible, not to mention removing educational funding and even literally taking little kids' lunch money, well, they are furious. The bill in question this time, SB 63, sought to prevent physicians from prescribing hormone-related medications used to treat everything from low bone density to cancer to anyone under the age of 18, because hormones bad is apparently the extent of their understanding of medicine, which may be why we have doctors make these decisions instead of politicians. Governor Kelly lashed out at lawmakers for sending a bill to her desk that would cause significant harm to thousands of kids in the state, undermine parental rights, and benefit no one for the sake of culture war ideology, all while ignoring the very real problems citizens face, which they were ostensibly elected to deal with. Kansas Senator Ty Masterson took the opportunity to show his ass, declaring that the governor's devotion to reality knows no bounds by vetoing a bill that would have prevented children from receiving necessary medical care. House Leader Chris Croft also put himself in the spotlight to say, on record, that he condemns the governor's refusal to let his personal, fiction-based ideology come between kids and the care they need. Of course, it needs to be stated that political moves like this are always a smokescreen. The GOP has demonstrated time and time again through their actions that they do not give a damn about kids, despite their words claiming the opposite. But it is never just the kids either. Bullying children is the easy first move cowards like these always make before they try to pass something more broad and far more harmful to everyone of every age. Well done to these dumbass legislators for once, telling us where they really stand. But more than that, kudos to Governor Kelly for standing firm, yet again, against harmful, radical ideology and for her steadfast dedication to protecting her community. Let's wrap this week with some trans history. I haven't had time to make a proper trans people in history short lately, but here's an interesting individual who came to my attention recently. Meet Albert Cashier. Born on Christmas Day in 1843, young Albert answered President Lincoln's call for soldiers to join the Union Army in 1862. Even before the age of 18, he had been living as a man, with the support of his family, including his stepfather and uncle, who helped him secure employment in a factory in Illinois. He joined the 95th Illinois Infantry and was assigned to Company G, whose descriptive book listed him as a 5'3" man with blue eyes and auburn hair, 110 pounds, and was noted to have passed his physical examination. According to fellow soldiers, he was a reserved fellow who preferred not to share a tent, which wasn't at all unusual for a variety of reasons, not the least of which being the risks of contagious infections. More on that in a moment. He fought to capture Confederate strongholds in Columbus, Ohio, and into Kentucky and Tennessee, where his unit was incorporated into General Ulysses Grant's Army of the Tennessee. Under General Grant, they saw roughly 40 battles, including the Siege of Vicksburg, and that was when young Cashier really got to distinguish himself. He was captured during a scouting mission, but managed to escape and return to his unit, bringing not only information about the enemy perimeter, but intel from inside the forward defenses, such as the strength of the fortifications, number of defenders, and general morale of those inside. He was so good at slipping through enemy territory that when he wound up contracting a severe illness during the siege, While sick, he managed to infiltrate the Confederate military hospital, procure the medicine he needed, and get back out, all while evading detection. Albert and his unit stayed in the field until the end of the war, participating in some of the most pivotal events, including the Red River Campaign, the battles of Bryce's Crossroads, Spring Hill, Franklin, the defense of Nashville, and the pursuit of General Hood. After receiving his honorable discharge, unlike many of the hundreds of AFAB soldiers who went back to living as women in the post-war years, Albert persisted in his identity until the end of his life. The community in Sawnemen, Illinois, supported and accepted him without reservation. Town payroll records show he worked various local jobs over the years, and one employer had a small house built for him in 1885. He voted in elections, and when veterans' pensions started in 1907, he was included. Those who found out about his anatomy kept it to themselves, because then, as now, what is in a person's pants is nobody else's business. But records and recollections show a good many people did know. The Lannon family, who cared for him during an illness, were among those, as was his doctor, who set a broken leg following an incident involving being hit by a car while working for a state senator in 1911. Sadly, that accident left him unable to work, and he was moved to the Soldiers and Sailors Home in Quincy, Illinois, where many of his fellows from the 95th visited. However, during a stay in another hospital in Watertown, attendants forcibly detransitioned him, which led to a 1914 investigation for fraud by the Veterans Pension Board. While that doubly horrific experience was probably the stuff of Albert's nightmares made real, being forced to live as a person he wasn't, and facing the threat of losing his only remaining income, a pension he literally fought for because he was the wrong kind of human. This is where community enters the picture yet again. Albert's comrades in arms, 50 years later, came together to demand the board treat him like any other soldier. He stood with them through dozens of the bloodiest battles in American history, and he was more of a man than many of those who would see his dignity taken from him in these later years. He won his case and continued to receive his pension until he passed away and was buried in uniform with full military honors under a gravestone inscribed with his chosen, now recognized name. Albert D.J. Cashier, Company G, 95th Illinois Infantry. His life was by no means an easy one, bookended by battles and with no particular windfall in between. What made it tolerable was the people around him, the people in his life who accepted him, welcomed him, befriended him, helped him, and stood up for him even when the government tried to take away his very identity. Sound familiar? You've probably noticed that there's a theme to this week's show, and it's the importance of community. By all means, stand strong and proud. Shine your light as brightly as you can. And when the people with dark hearts come at you with malicious intentions, shine even brighter. But know this, that just as we've always been here, we're also not alone. Whether it's nerds fundraising like crazy to help us stay alive, or people on the internet shouting down the elected officials trying to get us killed, or the governor of a very red state holding the line to keep that red from becoming blood, there are people who care, who will put themselves out there to stand up for what's right and stand with us. Now, just as in Albert's time, we aren't alone. You aren't alone. That's the power of community. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your help to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/TheTransPositions. Spread the word all over social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by Bumblebee. And if you simply existing infuriates the raging hate mob, well, good job. Join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people that you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
I'll come on with you while you get ready. Thank you so much for sticking with us here. We've been having trouble getting a Dropbox. It's been giving us hell backstage, but thank you so much for sticking with us. And yeah, the good news segment is usually like a pre-recorded. It's usually a pre-recorded segment. So yeah, there may be some audio lag in there, but we do republish last week's episode of Good News on Thursday afternoon before. So you are not on Thursday. On I try to do it on Mondays. The following Monday is this just a standalone segment, so you can watch it back there, and it's crisp and pristine format if that's what you need. All right, Steph is coming up next with some Steffi.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I gotta do my countdown here though, because I need to get a little bit of yachting in here, because this is my passion, my love, my
yacht away, my dear.
But And I'm amazed how many Maine stories have come up here, and I've actually shifted gears a wee bit. I had meant to put a couple of, given what Ember said about the Maine legislator. The Maine, we'll get into it a little bit later, but hey, and I was unable to make that Dropbox link as well, so I don't know what we can do. Maybe we can figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
In
Carly
the
can share it
meanwhile,
directly too if she
hang,
needs to.
hang wit, come wit. We'll make it happen. We're gonna make it happen.
All right. Well,
Just come with, and give me a moment, and we'll just count it down.
Just like Thursday, the boat in trouble. This time, Elmora was able to wriggle off the hook with 1:30 to go, and now they hold a favored position. We're not going to have it. Game here is to get up to full speed. Kayard makes his move first, and he'll be going faster when the gun goes off. Go down below the line. 20. 17. 14. 13. 4, 3, 2, 1, gun! Another clean start and another good job by Dellenbaugh.
Another good job by Dellenbaugh. Way to go, David. Always gotta like it. Always gotta like it. Well, here I am. I'm coming to you from the cockpit of Morse 42X, the mighty Ranger. And in the background is Southwest Harbor, Maine. And here I am. Actually, I'm not in Southwest Harbor at the moment. I'm in Portland. But there's been so much about Maine tonight. And so maybe I'll just focus on that story, right? All right. So here's the thing. We're all familiar with Governor Mills, or Janet Mills, our former Attorney General. Janet's been around for a bit. She's a couple of years younger than Donald of Orange, but she's been around for a while, and she wasn't shy about standing up to Donald of Orange in his little gathering of governors in a gaggle in the White House. And I couldn't be more proud. Anyway, let me just share this news story that was published just yesterday, as a matter of fact, by Maine Public Radio. And I'll give you a little bit more background as we go through the story. I gotta share the screen, share the screen. Here's how transgender rights are protected under Maine and federal law. Let's concentrate on the Maine law. Maine Public is a story written by Patty Wright of Maine Public Radio, Maine Public Broadcasting, service of the University of Maine system, and Colby, Bates, and Bowdoin colleges. In let's see, Colby is in Lewiston, or is it Bates? I always mix those two up. Bowdoin is in Brunswick, which is not too far away from where I am. Home of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, 20th Maine and all of that stuff. Anyway, story by Patty Wright, Maine Public, and goes Maine Governor Janet Mills' confrontation with President Donald Trump garnered national attention last week. During a recent White House event, Trump warned Mills that Maine would lose federal funding if she did not comply with his executive order banning transgender female athletes from competing on girls' sports teams. And let me show you this. Let me just show you this quickly. Oops. Oh my goodness. I got to reload that tab. There we go. This is the headline from today's Press Herald, Thursday, the 27th. U.S. Attorney General threatens Mills with lawsuit over transgender athletes. Randy Billings. This was in the morning papers today. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. Threatened to sue Maine if Janet Mills refuses to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order calling for a nationwide ban on transgender student athletes. Bondi said in a letter that a federal investigation show that Maine is denying girls. Let's be careful about this. Denying girls an equal opportunity to participate in athletic events by requiring them to compete against boys. The Department of Justice stands ready to take all appropriate action to enforce federal law. Well, now, Pam, may I call you Pamela? Or is it Pam Olive? I don't know. May I call you Olive? I'll call you Olive. So, Olive, trans girls are girls. Okay? Get it? See how it works? I hope it does not come to this. The Department of Justice does not want to have to sue states and or state entities. Guess what? You're going to have to sue a shit ton of them. Oh my! Or to seek termination of their federal grants. Well, you can seek it, but as Governor Mills said, we'll see in court. Anywho, now, also, just below the headline, debate gains steam in legislature. This is what happens. Now, folks, this is what happens when you put yourself out there. When you do take on the bully, you're going to get some pushback. Maine's policies are in the national spotlight. We're not the only state that has gender identity protected under our civil rights law here in the state of Maine. Several other states do. That ain't changing. We've had it. It's been on the books since 2005. Anyway, but Representative Libby is in the Maine state legislature, and so she has every right to introduce a bill to try to overturn those policies that have been in place for 20 years, 2 decades. Maine lawmakers are preparing to debate several bills to restrict the right of transgender students in schools. As this is, again, camel nose under the tent, which is like, we're protecting the children. The next thing you know, we'll talk about it later. You'll wind up like Texas. Okay. Caratunk. Where the hell is Caratunk? Representative Elizabeth Caruso of Caratunk. I don't even know where the hell that is. So, news conference State House Wednesday. It would require school sports teams to be designated male, female, or co-ed, and would prohibit students who are biologically male from competing in female sports. Yeah, we'll see where that goes. And that's continued. See, anything else up here? No, but the two top stories on the front pages of the Portland Press Herald, the newspaper of Maine's largest city, population 63,000. That's where we're at. This is where we're at here. Anyway, back to Maine Public. It's been 20 years that we've been protecting on the basis of gender identity. It's not new. It's not radical, said Kit Thompson-Crossman, executive director of the Maine Human Rights Commission. Thompson-Crossman says, gender identity was first included in the Maine Human Rights Act as a part of the definition of sexual orientation in 2005. 4 years ago, the law was amended to add gender identity as its own protected class, joining other protected classes such as sex, sexual orientation, disability, race, color, and religion. The law specifically says that denying a person equal opportunity in athletic programs is education discrimination. So the Maine Human Rights Act, this quote, protects trans students in the same way it protects all other students, says Thompson-Crossman. So you have to have equal opportunity in their school athletic programs, not special treatment, not just equal access to participate if they want to. To align with state law, the Maine Principals Association updated its policy last year to allow students to participate in sports based on the gender they identify with. Now, I will tell you that as a person that worked in a high school sailing program from 2006 through 2013 here in Portland, that was in effect. I had transgender kids come through my program. Some of them, I knew them well. I knew their parents. I knew their classmates. I worked with them. We were able to do this. We were able to accommodate people, all the while building up the access to sailing as a sport for girls as well as boys. And you know what? As a result of that, when U.S. Sailing started focusing on bringing girls into the sport, women into the sport in leadership positions, we were able to achieve equality at the collegiate level by 2019. In competition, as shown on the scoreboard, as shown in national championships. You give women opportunities, you give girls opportunities in sport, they thrive. We are right now expecting schools to comply with the Maine Human Rights Act, and I think that's going to put them in conflict with Title IX. And that's something I'm sure we're going to be working out for a while. And that's something I'm sure we're going to be working out for a while. But with the Supreme Court precedent of Bostock, if applied to Title IX, who knows? With this court, I think it'll go badly for us, being honest. But I do think that if we continue to bend the arc of history by leaning on it and leaning into it, we're going to bend it in the right direction. Now, one last thing on this. How do you think the 2019 legislation that added gender identity to the Maine Human Rights Act happened? Well, I'll tell you, at least part of the story. Because of this kid. This kid. Here's a headline, Time magazine. Transgender teen awarded $75,000 in school restroom lawsuit. Recognize that face? Any of you? Anybody in the chat recognize that face? Transgender student Natalie Maines Center speaks to reporters as her father, Wayne Maines, left and brother Jonas look outside the Penobscot Judicial Center in Bangor, Maine. A court in Maine, this is December 3rd, 2014, Time magazine. A court in Maine awarded the family of a transgender teenager $75,000 in a discrimination lawsuit against a school district that forced the student to use a staff restroom rather than a facility reserved for pupils, reports the Associated Press. Nicole Maines, I'm sorry, I misnamed her. Nicole Maines had won her lawsuit against the Orono School District earlier this year in front of the Maine Supreme Judicial Court, which ruled that the school district had violated the state's Human Rights Act on the basis of sex at the time. This is 2014. It was changed. It was officially made a protected status in 2019. But this is why it was made a protected status. Case marked the first time a state's highest court ruled that a transgender person has the right to use the restroom of the gender with which they identify. This is Nicole right there. Nicole Maines, some of you may recognize the name. Have you ever heard of a little program that was on the CW network called Supergirl? Nicole Maines is an actress. She played the character Dreamer in that series. She was one of the first trans people to play a trans character in a nationally syndicated series, national TV. That's what this child did. She changed Maine law and she changed the entertainment industry. This is one tough cookie. This is why they're not going to beat us, because we ain't going away. In the wake of the court's decision, the lower court awarded the financial settlement to the Maines family and the activist organization Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defender on November 25th. In accordance with the order, the Orono School District is prohibited from refusing transgender students access to school restrooms that are consistent with their gender identity. This is something. Case stemmed from an incident in 2007 when the grandfather of a fellow, this child was in 5th grade, a fellow 5th grade classmate complained to the school administration that Maines was allowed to use the girls' bathroom. In the wake of the protests, the Orono School District began forcing Maines to use a staff facility, a decision her parents argued was discriminatory. This is a Time magazine article from 2014. Our state's motto is Dirigo. It means we lead. We led then. Janet Mills led now. We're going to continue to lead. and those headlines, fortunately, we're a state that has a trifecta. The Democrats control the state Senate and the state legislature. And we're going to fight like hell to keep it that way. And we're also going to fight like hell to convince even the reddest parts of this state that trans girls like Nicole, trans women like me, trans people are proud Mainers, deserve a place alongside every other citizen of the state of Maine. So I suppose I should say a word. I probably should have led with the bad news. I suppose I should say a word about what just happened. This broke. Amber brought this to my attention earlier. As y'all may know, the state of Texas had a bill, HB 3399, and here's that bill. Now, apparently, the thing that actually made me laugh when I first looked into this is obviously the first line here is like right here. This thing here, it says, it was introduced by money. Now, don't that make you laugh just a little bit? Because you know what? It was introduced by money. Bad money. Really bad money. Money that had a certain, shall we say, musky odor. Probably is the guy's name, but whatever. A bill to be entitled An Act Relating to Provision of Procedures and Treatments for Gender Transitioning, Gender Reassignment, or Gender Dysphoria. Okay, so we've got two procedures, one condition. And the condition, gender dysphoria, is treated by gender transitioning, gender reassignment. So both the procedures and the condition are spoken to in this act. Now, I want you to look at what's crossed out. Being enacted by the legislatures of the state of Texas, Section 1, the heading of to subchapter blah 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 blah. It's amended to read as follows: Subchapter 10, gender transitioning and gender reassignment procedures and treatments. Originally, it said for certain children. That's crossed out. So originally, this act, HB 3399, was proposed to regulate gender transitioning, gender reassignment, or gender dysphoria for children, minors. That's crossed out. Now, the language of this bill affects all transgender people in the state of Texas. If you're an adult, you have gender dysphoria, you require treatment, you'd better move, because it essentially, I won't read through every jot and tittle of this law, but it prohibits everything. And it declares, for the purpose of transitioning a person's biological sex as determined by sex organs, chromosomes, and endogenous profiles of the person, added, child crossed out, or affirming the person's, child crossed out, perception of the person's, child crossed out, sex, if that perception is inconsistent with the person's, child's crossed out, biological sex, a physician or healthcare provider may not knowingly do a fucking thing. You know, all these things. Yeah, exceptions, okay? This is the cute part. This only applies to trans people. Exceptions does not apply to the provision of, by a physician or healthcare provider to a person, including a child, with the consent of the child's parent or legal guardian, of puberty suppression or blocking prescription drugs for the purpose of normalizing puberty for a minor experiencing precocious puberty, and aka a cis child, or appropriate and medically necessary procedures to a person who's born with a medically verifiable genetic disorder of sex development. In other words, if you are one of the 2% of humanity who does have a DSD, you know, oh, you're not supposed to come out of the box. You're not you're a redhead. Are you kidding me? We got to do something about that. And they go into some of the things, but obviously not all. It's just, can you imagine a legislature going through and marking up a bill on any other medical or psychological human condition? Human, and I emphasize human condition. The lack of empathy that these people have towards trans people is astonishing, and it's disgusting. It is thoroughly disgusting. These are human beings. The heartlessness, absolute heartlessness required to draft a law like this is mind-boggling. I'm trying to get to penalties. Penalties be damned. Yeah, they're not going to use any public money. As I said, I this fell into my hands literally half an hour before the show, so I haven't. I'm not going to get into the penalties. We'll takes effect September 1st, 2025. Man, if you're in Texas and you're trans and don't want the governor fooling around in your pants, make other arrangements. And for the transpositions, I'm Stephanie Helms.
Nikki takes it to the hilts again at USA Track and Field Indoor Nationals. What's the latest Trump administration edict against trans people? Here's one just in time for LA 2028. And the Battle of Maine. Between all the threats, what's really going on? Hello again, everybody. This is Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. The Nikki Hiltz hot streak continued at USA Track and Field's Indoor National Championships this past weekend. The USATF's first non-binary champ was seeking a fifth straight title at 1,500 meters, and they added a new goal, a 1,500 3,000 double that hasn't been seen in 5 years. Saturday, women's 3,000 meters, and the story early on was Shelby Houlihan. She's writing her story, leading the race, seeking redemption after a 4-year PED suspension. But Hiltz is the tactician, and they worked their plan brilliantly in the last 2 laps. And look what developed. Another national championship for Nikki Hiltz, but Houlihan did get a piece of redemption. She finished second. Now, on to Sunday. 1,500 meter final, and the 4-time champ was in the middle of the chess game. Now we know how much Hiltz has worked on their strength and speed to deal with those NASCAR type high speed 1500s, but this was a tactical race, and Hiltz showed they can bring the goods in a tactical race, and they did it again. Check it out, Nikki Hiltz, Kickalicious, on the way to their 5th straight national title in the event. Now let's take a look at the Hiltz litany over these last few years. 2023, swept the 1,500 meter titles both indoor and outdoor and added the Road 1 Mile Championship. In 2024, repeated as Road 1 Mile champion, swept the 1,500 again, qualified for their first Olympics, finished 7th in Paris. And now, the first 1,500 3,000 double since 2020. The last person to do it was Shelby Houlihan. Now, Hiltz did earn a place at the upcoming World Indoor Championships in China, but they're going to skip the Worlds because they've signed on to the Michael Johnson Grand Slam Track Tour. The opener, also the opener of their outdoor season, will be in Kingston, Jamaica, April 15th. Hiltz is also racing with an eye towards the Summer Olympics in LA in 2028, but the U.S. State Department policy might keep other non-binary and trans athletes on the outside looking in. According to a report in The Guardian Tuesday, the United States State Department has ordered officials worldwide to deny visas to transgender athletes attempting to come to the U.S. for sports competitions and to issue permanent visa bans against those who are deemed to, quote, misrepresent their birth sex on visa applications. A State Department memo written by Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that the permanent fraud bar statute of the Naturality and Immigration Act will be applied, quote, in cases where applicants are suspected of misrepresenting their purpose of travel or sex. You should consider whether this misrepresentation is material such that it supports an ineligibility finding. Yet again, we're seeing how the Trump administration seeks to have another go at transgender people. But here's the thing, Secretary of State Rubio. You only had 2 transgender athletes total at the Olympics and Paralympics in Paris last year. At this point, you only have one who says they're openly looking at competing at LA in 2028. And that's Italian Paralympic track star Valentina Petrillo, who hasn't ruled out taking another shot at the Paralympics. And she had some choice words recently for President Trump. On February 6th, she commented on Trump's sports executive order to the Italian news agency ANSA. She said, quote, "Donald Trump talks about things he doesn't know. An athlete's performance is not based on testosterone. Luckily, he doesn't decide. The federations and the IOC decide." However, there's a little flaw in that ointment, Ms. Petrillo. The next IOC president will be in the decision, and 2 of the leading candidates, a reminder, the election coming up in March, include World Athletic President Sebastian Coe and Union Cycliste Internationale's head David Lapontier. Both have initiated and passed policies against trans women competing in their respective sports. Also consider that Trump believes that boxer Amani Khalif of Algeria and Yulin Ting of Taiwan, both cisgender women who won gold medals in Paris last year, are trans. What you have is a situation that doesn't bode well for trans people who play sports or trans people who just want to come to the United States. And that's what many analysts feel this ruling is really about. When we return to Transposition Sports, we're going to look at a situation in Maine where a high school kid wins a state championship, a governor and a president come to verbal blows over it, and there's a broadcasting company in the middle of it all. That and more to come. This is Transposition Sports.
Transposition Sports has been brought to you by a sleeping cat. Carly, I'm asleep. Get that out of my face. Now a message from the angry gay grandpa. Get the Kleenex out.
So maybe I'll start a little bit softer.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt? I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
I love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Welcome back to Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay-Webb, and we're going to take a deeper look into the situation brewing in Maine. 2 weeks ago, Maine's high school indoor track and field championships, Class B pole vault. There's a kid who won from Greeley High School, and she is a transgender girl. Keeping with our editorial policies here, we're not going to name her, but this girl was outed by a person named Laurel Libby, also known as State Representative Laurel Libby. Oh, by the way, what party does she belong to? Who else? She's a Republican.
Transphobia for a stronger America.
Well, it seems that Representative Libby really had a lot to say about all this. Let's take a look.
Boys participating in girls' sports is not fair. And when the woke left can't silence women, they cancel them.
A fierce debate in the Maine legislature as a lawmaker is disciplined for a viral social media post.
What was the decision to post the photos of them? Why did you make that decision?
That individual is participating in a public event, a public sport. There are photos online. This is not new. And when you choose to participate in something that is as public as this, it's not surprising. The citizens in my district are having their voices silenced as well. And this is a huge infringement on my First Amendment right of free speech.
This is not the new standard that any kid, any Maine kid, could be posted on Facebook or anywhere as part of a political attack.
I asked Libby how she would feel if she was the parent in this situation.
I would never allow my son to participate in girls' sports. It is unfair, and Maine people know that. And so I can't imagine a scenario where a photo of my child would be posted as participating in a sport with the opposite gender, competing as that gender.
Of course, backing people like Representative Libby or the other anti-trans advocates like the Karens Against Women's Sports, who have all been coming at this kid. And that extends all the way to a special friend of the Karens who's in the White House now. And that led to a moment last Friday between President Trump and Democratic Maine Governor Janet Mills.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well,
Not here.
are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
The governor stood her ground, and in response, the Department of Justice is now investigating Maine's Department of Education and the University of Maine, even though the Black Bears don't have a single transgender athlete on any of their athletic teams. Since then, there's been a lot of questions in regard to what the president can and cannot do. One television station in Maine talked to a constitutional law expert, and here's what he had to say about that.
Well, when President Trump said it would be fairly easy, he's right. It'll be fairly easy against him. Look, Congress allocates these monies to be spent, and the president, under the Constitution, must faithfully execute the laws, must take care to faithfully execute the laws, the laws that Congress has passed and Congress has appropriated money for. And he can't just decide, because he wants to make a point with the governor of Maine on transgender athletes, to not give money to Maine that's been allocated by Congress. It's a pretty simple legal question. There's also a congressional act, the Congressional Budget and Empowerment Act of 1974, in response to when Richard Nixon tried to do a much smaller scale thing. And the law is very clear. No, the president cannot just impound money and decide not to spend it. He's got to report to Congress, and Congress can tell him if that's appropriate or not.
That same station also talked to the head of the Maine Principals Association. Now, they're the group that administers high school sports and activities in the state. Here's what he had to say.
The Maine Human Rights Act is the Maine Human Rights Act, and we, the people, passed a law that protected people based on gender discrimination. We, the people, passed that in 2005. So this is something absolutely that's in law, and the legislature passed laws that we, the people, put them there to protect transgender students to make sure that they have the resources they need and they're not discriminated against. So the Maine Principals Association is merely looking at those, like all associations do, looking at state law and saying, okay, we want to make sure that we comply with state law. And this is what they put in place. And nobody challenged that. And nobody said, no court told them that they shouldn't do that anymore. So let's be clear. I disagree with you also. I think the legislature is strongly in support of transgender non-discrimination, of all students being able to participate in the sports that are associated with their gender. So I don't think that there would be bipartisan support to overturn this. And Donald Trump is just trying to force the state to do something that our elected representatives have said, no, we won't do.
Now, in the middle of all this noise, there's been some other interesting things that have happened in the way that this has been covered. By the way, just a note to news outlets in Maine, because it looks like this is going to be a thing up there. News reporters, when you're doing interviews about this topic, please, please, please don't do this.
Libby is joining a national conversation surrounding transgender women and girls who are biological males participating in girls' and women's sports.
Really? Biological males? Really? You know the Associated Press style book frowns upon this. GLAAD frowns upon this. The Trans Journalists Association frowns upon this. But I know there's at least one media group who's going to ignore this no matter what we tell them. In this case, that's a station with the call letters WGME, also known as News 13 Maine. They're a CBS affiliate and they cover a lot of the state. And this particular station did the story on what happened at the Maine State Indoor Track Meet. And they interviewed a kid who was in a different event talking about how a teammate was beaten by the kid who won the pole vault. Take a look and notice how familiar this sounds.
My teammate came over to me and told me that she was going to have to compete against a biological male.
Zoe Hutchins competed in Maine's Class B indoor track and field state championship on Monday. She says her teammate had to compete against a transgender athlete.
My friend who had to directly compete against him kept saying was that it's not fair. And she's totally right. It's not fair. And it should never have happened.
If nothing else, the teenage girl who gave this interview sounded like she was having a screen test to be a part of a future Alliance Defending Freedom lawsuit. But what if I were to tell you that this same interview and story ran in stations in almost 100 markets? Well, it did, and it's by design, because the company who owns WGME does transphobia with flair, and their name is Sinclair. Yes, Sinclair Broadcasting owns News 13 Maine. And Sinclair is well known for having a right-wing slant and, well, everything when it comes to their local news properties. By the way, if you want to know more about Sinclair, John Oliver from Last Week Tonight did an excellent deep dive on this company a few years ago on his show. I'll link you to it. It'll be in the comments. And it's only getting worse. Fox News tried to make a big to-do of the fact that because of the threats against this kid just for winning a championship that they were eligible to win, police had to be present to provide additional security at Greeley High School. And Fox is making it sound like, oh, it's the trans kid's fault. This is America in 2025. From the looks of things, this is going to become more of an issue, and not just in Maine, especially since states such as California, Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington State have stated publicly they're going to ignore President Trump's executive order. They're going to allow transgender student athletes to play sports for their school in concordance with their state human rights laws. And the bulk of those athletes are going to be playing in the upcoming spring sports season. And I shudder to think what the temperature is going to be in Oregon and Washington, because in both of those states, with outdoor track seasons coming, each has a transgender girl who's defending a state track title this season. There are Sinclair stations in both those states and in a number of markets across this country, and they're going to spew the same nonsense. So will Karens against women's sports. So will the administration, and so will the Department of Education, just like they did under Betsy DeVos, someone who is just as hopeless and incompetent as the current Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, is. They're going to attack these kids. They're going to attack these schools, and they're going to attack affirming parents, because all this is a part of a dedicated PR strategy. Let's understand this. This is by design. But I will say this. Good on you, Governor Mills, for standing up and being counted. When I think of the actions of all these professional transphobes and the politicians who back them up, I think of Joseph Welch. He was the attorney who said those famous words to Joseph McCarthy in 1954. Have you no decency? It's pretty safe to say that the professional transphobes out in the world and in the White House and in the press rooms of their mouthpieces have none. And they're making somebody's child the target. Hashtag just saying. But on the upside, there are people in the fourth estate who are doing it right. And I want to end by giving one of them a big bouquet of flowers. Christina Carl, executive sports editor of the San Francisco Chronicle, and her team, who did a lot of fine reporting during the San Jose State volleyball situation last fall. Her team that covered the story are finalists for the Associated Press Sports Editor Awards for Investigative Sports Journalism. That team included reporters Marisa Igemi, Ann Killian, Aaron Alday, Bob Agelko, and a whole host of editors, photographers, and videographers. This is what Christina Carl said on her social media today. Quote, "It was an award won in the face of massive misrepresentations and misinformation amplified by outlets ranging from the New York Times, Fox Sports, and more, coming from a major political party and presidential candidate. Journalism, like history, is rooted in a basic commitment to reporting the truth. In times such as these, I cannot be more proud of the people ready to stand by the commitment of their craft, to do right by their readers, their communities, and their fellow Americans." Just another feather in a cap who's long been a role model to me and many others. And she's perhaps the highest ranking transgender person in American journalism. Christina Carl and team at the Chronicle, take a bow. You've earned it. For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.
All right, friends. What a show this has been. Thank you so much for that for that piece there, Carly. Really do appreciate all the work you put in every week to making sure we have a great sports lineup. I don't know if I tell you that enough, but if I don't, there it is again and
Well,
stuff.
it's good to get the deep dive on Maine, and
yeah,
and I want to send a special shout out to somebody in Maine shout out to Allie Cleveland of the Maine, who plays for the Maine Mayhem, the women's tackle football team up there in Maine, and can't wait to get this season kicked off April 26th, and can't wait to host the Mayhem down here to take on the Ambush and what should be a thrilling battle on June 14th. So, and just a note to News 13 up in Maine, we got our eyes on you. And every time you say something transphobic, every time you Sinclair people do that, I'm hitting you. I just want you to know that.
Yeah,
I'm a real
they've been
journalist.
affiliated with Sinclair for a long time. 13 is terrible. I didn't get to the Boston Herald's coverage. I did actually spend $1, which I will immediately take back in subscribing to the Boston Herald, who actually, I mentioned this guy's editorial column saying, "Hey, Janet Mills." I think the nut of the editorial was, "Hey, Vermain was the only one sitting in that room that gave the president lip," and I gotta say, that did take a certain special something. I appreciate Janet Mills so much for doing that. And I got
You
one
got to
little
stand up
extra
to a bully.
I
I
got
do as
one.
well.
Got one little extra thing for you, Carly. You might have heard that Wayne Gretzky's in a little bit of hot water up in Canada for
Oh yeah,
being a
because
Trump supporter.
Wayne Gretzky is a Trump supporter. Now here's the big question: since Wayner's in Canada, will Wayne support Pierre Polieve?
That's a good question.
Because remember,
Here's the thing.
Canada can call a vote tomorrow. Canada could call an election tomorrow. They have to have an election by October 20th.
Yes, they do.
They have to have an election. And I'm interested. Okay, great one. So what you gonna do?
But here's the
Are
thing.
you supporting Pierre Polieve? We kind of want to know.
But here's the thing. While your segment was running, I opened up Deck Blue and I saw it. It's, oh wow, Wayne Gretzky's an asshole. It's like as if we didn't know Wayne Gretzky's an asshole. He's an asshole. So somebody made this remark about Jane Gretzky. Jane Gretzky says her husband Wayne's heart is broken, and I re-skeeted the thing and said with the heading, "The Great Griftsky." I think it's like calling the Great Griftsky. It's like, fuck you, asshole. Won't someone take sympathy on the fading hockey star? It's like, fuck you. All these people, it's like, fuck you. What are you doing? Why are you spending all this time and energy just doing for yourselves and screwing everybody else over? Just sucks. Anyway, this was fun. This was fun. It was as sad as the circumstances are, it was great to have Ben here, and it was all great to clown around a little bit, and that's what we got to do. We got to do some clowning around. Just if for no other reason than to hold our own selves together to move through these times.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
It's rough in these streets, isn't it?
And I am in Texas, where I'm now an outlaw.
Not yet. But you will be, actually, you will be, depending on when your last script got filled, because somebody pointed out here that, in fact, it applies to any treatment starting after June 1st, 2025 as well.
Yeah, well,
which could present a problem for some people.
I might be living in New Mexico by then, though.
Maybe.
I'm just right now I'm basically like in rented space.
You're not
here.
far from the border, right?
Yeah.
You're not far, yeah.
And where my work is actually closer to the New Mexico border than I am right now. So yeah.
So
so yeah, maybe I won't stay in Texas.
Nudge. Yeah, I wouldn't. If you have options, this is the thing. I think if you have options in states like Texas, states like Iowa, all of it,
Florida,
please consider your options and consider them seriously, because these guys ain't fucking around. They're not fucking around. They're serious.
Oklahoma,
as serious as a heart attack.
Missouri.
But if you're in a state like mine, in the state of Maine, where the same kinds of shit is going down. You know, fortunately, most of the population has a little bit more common sense and human decency, and a willingness to get out there and display it, than in some of these other places. Still, all of us have to open ourselves up to the folks that are in danger in these other places. And similarly, other nations have to open themselves up to people in the United States who are in danger. And particularly as regards their own citizens, there are already travel advisories to certain areas in the United States for people. If it gets that far, we're gonna need places to run to. I hate to say it, but we are. We just are, because these people aren't kidding. They're serious. And we tried. This is the hard piece. We tried to tell y'all. We tried as hard as we could to tell y'all.
Yeah, but the more we ring the bell, the more they're like, you ringing that bell is the reason why it's gonna happen now. It's like, okay.
Well, yeah, but it's again, that's the whole. It's the gaslighting. It's the blaming the victim. It's the, well, if only you weren't so vocal. If only you weren't so. If only you did it nicer. If only you approached things in a more patient and timely way, none of this would happen. It's like, honey, you don't get to lay yourself off the fucking hook that easily.
If you just shuffle along, can't you just do what you're told?
Yeah.
Don't be so uppity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
And there ain't no reason to not go there.
At this point in time,
I think that it's painful. I think that it is painful for a lot of people to realize that your privilege does not protect you once you give it up. And I do think that that's something that is actually something that fuels trans misogyny overall. And why trans misogyny is much, much sharper, directed at trans women. Not that it isn't directed at trans men as well. I think there are misogynistic outlooks that are directed at trans men, and if Ben were here, I'm sure we would have a discussion on the topic. But it's the notion of privilege has a strong place in this conversation that doesn't get enough talk. At the philosophical level, I mean, people are willing to talk about the niceties of a number of things, but not that so much. Anywho, that was a serious note.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and everybody who stuck around in the side chat and kept the conversation lively out there. We appreciate you.
We appreciate our mods. We appreciate our mods. We appreciate everybody who comes by here.
Yes,
we want people to leave comments. If you hate us, if you love us, if you just
constructive
wanna clown
comments,
with us,
though. Don't throw transphobic, just
we don't like
word
those
salad down in there. You're not gonna make much ground, or make ground. Like, look at these old men. on the
we got a
screen.
bunch of other shit to deal with, but aside from your garbage. But you know, if
Yeah.
that's what makes you think, Swain, go ahead. You know.
Wait a minute. Who's that? Wait a minute. Somebody did that?
Oh yeah, we have our haters.
We got haters, but
Oh, well.
I don't lose sleep over it, babe.
All I know is,
No.
I want to send somebody else their flowers today. While we got a few minutes, I want to send Montana Representative Zoe Zephyr some flowers today because in committee they killed a bill that would have created the crime of, what is this going to be called? Abortion trafficking.
What the fuck?
Yeah, this was a bill designed to make carrying someone through Montana who's seeking an abortion in a state where it's legal a felony. And Democrats in committee, Zoe was among them, killed this bill.
Good.
This is another reason why we really need more weebs in politics. We need more weebs in elected office, because we elected Zoe Zephyr, by her own admission, is a straight up weeb, and she's gotten so much stuff done in a short amount of time on a number of issues, not just trans issues, not just women's issues, not just LGBTQ issues, but a number of issues also pertaining to things like conservation. She's been on it. She's very much taken the Danica Rome example, making the wave when you can, but doing a solid job for the folks back home, and that's how you do it. Sarah McBride, take notes. You can do both. You can serve your constituency, and you can stand up as a proud transgender American. And yes, transgender Americans are Americans.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, I want to wrap things
Thanks
up here.
everybody. Thanks everybody.
Night,
Support us on Patreon. Support us here and do all the things. Join our Discord, all that stuff. And thanks so much, Bree. Thanks, Carly. And
Bye.
Night, everyone.
Oh, I got to do something. I got to hit the button.
Yeah.